Welcome to the Trailbreaker Podcast. I'm Aaron Feinberg. In this podcast, I explore what it takes to be a trailbreaker. Through intimate conversations with people carving new paths across the landscapes of business, art, and sport, we dig in on how to excel across seemingly disparate endeavors. What drives people who manage to succeed multidimensionally? Is it how they think? Is it meticulous planning and follow-through? Or is it some measure of delusional optimism? My guest today is Stephanie Thomas, Executive Director of the Teton County Search and Rescue Foundation, an organization she's been a part of for the past 15 years. Her favorite parts of the job are supporting her search and rescue volunteers, brainstorming what's next, and working with community partners. When not on search and rescue duty, Steph's exploring the mountains by foot, wheel, or paddle with her 3 kiddos, partner Clay, and their silly dog Hank. We talked about the community prevention and education programs they run to keep locals and visitors out of trouble or to help them respond more effectively when trouble finds them. The Care for the Caregiver mental health programs they've created for their search and rescue volunteers, and her family's upcoming 4-month adventure to Central America, South America, and Europe. Steph, good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining the show today.
Thanks, Aaron. Glad to be here.
So, like some of my other guests, I have known you for over 20 years, and it is so great to see some of the work that you continue to be up to in serving the greater Jackson Hole community. So, for anyone who doesn't know you and what you're up to, give us the short spiel on what Steph Thomas does when she's not talking to me.
Well, that's kind of a broad question, but most of my time these days are filled with, on one side, my family. I've got 3 little kids and a spouse, plus a goofy dog. And we're always adventuring in the mountains, as well as spending some time in Jackson Hole doing what we love. But on the other side of things, I run the Teton County Search and Rescue Foundation and also have been a volunteer on that team for the last 15 of the 19 years I've been in this valley. So that takes up quite a bit of time and is pretty all-encompassing when I'm not with my crew at home.
And so your role there is executive director, is that right?
Yep. I'm the executive director of the Teton County Search and Rescue Foundation, which is the nonprofit that supports the volunteers who do the actual search and rescue missions. Got it.
So you guys kind of have an interesting structure, right? Where there's kind of 3 entities that are all working together to do the rescues in town. So give us a sense of what those 3 entities are, and then how does it kind of seamlessly unravel or unfold to be supportive to the town?
Yeah, there's a long history of search and rescue in this valley, way before when the actual team was formed in 1993. But the sheriff's office has kind of the direction from the state that the sheriff's office is in charge of search and rescue. And the way they accomplish that is by recruiting volunteers who are under the sheriff's purview to respond and do the search and rescue missions in and around Teton County. And so for a long number of years, that's kind of how it happened. Volunteers would get a page, they'd show up, they'd kind of go about their day. And then about 12 years ago, we saw a need for some more funding and some more equipment. And so I kind of jumped in and helped the team raise some cash to build a building, our first ever. And then from there, kind of created a foundation that went on to support the volunteers financially, as well as through some community education and advocacy work in order to really have a holistic set of expectations for the community and for our volunteers. And so now what happens is call comes in, 911 call comes in, and there's an emergency in the backcountry that goes through the sheriff's office and then is directed towards the volunteers. And they respond. They do work under the sheriff's office in order to do that. But we, as the foundation, kind of make sure that help happens as effectively and as efficiently as possible by providing funding for training, for equipment, just taking care of people. I mean, like I said, these are all our volunteers, so they're leaving the workforce and kind of getting out there. So yeah, we do kind of that behind the scenes support work, and really trying to make sure that message gets out to the community, that the volunteers are there, they're doing their job, and they're well supported.
And it's pretty wide range of rescues that you guys are up to, given where Jackson is located in the world. So just some sense of the kind of stuff that might happen seasonally, whether it's the winter in the backcountry, or whether it's summertime rescues with either locals or folks visiting. So what kind of stuff do the volunteers get dispatched to do?
Yeah, our team is unique in that way. There's a decent amount of teams that really have focused areas. Our team responds to all rescues, and everyone on the team is trained to respond to all rescues. It comes to a surprise to some people that 60% of our rescues happen this summer, with 40% happening in the winter. So the summer rescues are really things on the Swiftwater, areas of the Snake, do a lot of hikers, horseback riding, ATV accidents, trying to think of some other stuff that goes on. And then big searches, looking for people who went missing, kind of thought they were going to do one adventure and turned out to do a different one. Winter's really backcountry skiing, snowmobiling, snowboarding. We help with all of the activity outside of the gates of Jackson Hole Mountain Resort. That's about a third of the rescues in the winter come directly from people accessing the backcountry through the gates. And then we've had rising numbers of snowmobile accidents up in the Togety area. So lots of people coming from out of the state to recreate up there, and occasionally need some help.
And given the range of the things that the volunteers have to both be skilled in and then also be exposed to, when you talk about the equipment that they need just to be able to do their job safely, what goes, into the sort of the daily rescue operation in terms of gear that's required?
Yeah, it totally is a huge range depending on, the season and what the kind of rescue is at hand. So our building, our whole first floor of our building is really just a gear garage. So it's just rows and rows of trucks and toboggans and snowmobiles and sleds and medical gear and, titanium litters, kind of everything that you can think of to move or carry people in order to get them to an ambulance or a helicopter or wherever we're kind of trying to get them to. So we're always thinking about kind of what's next, or better ways, more efficient ways to do things. Our medical director is really amazing at trying to find the most perfect backpack to carry, oxygen and AED and a splint. So he's always on the lookout for things like that, as well as the rest of the volunteers. There's definitely a lot of gear junkies out there trying to figure this all out. But there's no real typical rescue. That's why we have this cache of equipment for people to come and kind of pick and choose what we need for each rescue and each mission.
And I also know, in addition to the actual rescues and getting people ideally home safely, there's a good amount of work you guys do in terms of prevention and education for the community. Give me a sense of what you're doing now, and historically maybe what you've done for programs that have sort of helped people to get a little clearer on what they can do so they don't put themselves in these positions.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just been a real mission of our volunteers for a long time to kind of educate the community. So back even before we had our foundation, people were showing up at, snowmobile nights at the Elks Lodge, or they would be going into classrooms and talking with kids. The foundation really just formalized what people had been doing previously and kind of created a program out of it. So about 6 years ago, maybe it's 7 now, we started the Backcountry Zero project, which was basically to reduce fatalities and injuries in the backcountry. And we kind of set out on this mission based on kind of the Vision Zero project in Sweden, which had the idea of reducing fatalities in car accidents. So kind of took that model and kind of tweaked it a bit so that it could be more localized and kind of smaller version for Jackson Hole, and really looked at partnerships. We looked at infrastructure, looked at education, signage, messaging, all the things that we could do to kind of put it out there in the universe that, not only do search and rescue volunteers want you to come home after, a mission, they want you to be prepared to stay out if you need to, or to help somebody else. And so we've accomplished that through classes, messaging. We have our own podcast, The Fine Line. We work with a lot of different partnership groups to make sure things like beacon check stations are up at the pass, or AEDs are down on the river, free PFDs for people who don't have them. Those sorts of programs are really the mainstay of Backcountry Zero and what we're kind of trying to get at, which is working as a community to prevent some of these accidents that could be preventable.
And I don't know if it came through you guys, but I just have seen over the last few years on social media coming out of Jackson, a lot of encouraging of folks who've been a part of these issues, either as folks who needed to get rescued or unfortunately with somebody who needed to be or maybe passed away, or on the rescuer side, around really speaking candidly about what happened, what they would have done differently, what they tried, et cetera, and just kind of creating a dialogue that can push everybody forward in kind of reduce the shame and the blame and the guilt, while, kind of helping everybody to sort of up their game. That was something you guys were a part of, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. The shaming culture around backcountry accidents is like widely known, and it's something that I think a lot of people aren't really proud of in our community. And so we've done things like create the Fine Line podcast, which really goes into rescue stories. And so it not only connects rescuers with the rescuees, it allows people to talk about their stories, maybe things they would have done differently, and kind of talk to the people who are involved in making sure that rescue happened, which has been a really great piece for our organization. We've also done things like create our Wyoming Snow and Avalanche workshop, which happens every October. It brings in speakers from all over the United States, actually all over the world, to talk about kind of risk and consequence in snow science, bringing all those things together for a couple of days of really great education around the kind of snow culture, but also preloading information so that you can kind of have that right mindset before kind of going into the backcountry for the winter. So that's a conversation we always have. We really feel for the people in accidents. Nobody's a volunteer out of anything but wanting to help somebody out. And rooting for the underdog is definitely something that sticks with people. So, we want people to get out there. We want them to have adventures. And it's awesome when they can kind of learn from their mistakes, teach others, mentor people as they move forward.
And on that sort of mentoring concept, I'm going to toot your horn because, maybe you won't, because you are a humble leader. But, I feel like the work that you guys are doing in Teton County is pretty special. And it also feels like, other groups in the United States as well as in Europe have kind of been talking to you or checking out what you've been up to and sort of curious about what you guys are doing that is a little different than maybe the norm. So what do people want to inquire about when they're ringing your bell?
Well, thanks, Aaron. That's really nice of you to say. I think people are just interested in different models. I mean, search and rescue is not a new concept anywhere in the world. So in Europe, it's all professionalized. So everyone's paid, they're a paid professional. And they do a lot of it, but that doesn't work in the United States. In the United States, we're a volunteer culture. In Canada, it's kind of a mix. So people are just really interested in the different models. I don't know of any other specific foundation. I know most search and rescue teams have a nonprofit that helps raise money, but they don't have a staff like we do to help really move some of these bigger projects along. And so a lot of people want to call and figure out, how did you do the paperwork to become a foundation? What does your staffing look like? How do you pay for it? What is your messaging? Can we use your messaging? We've shared our messaging with a number of teams who then kind of use it in their own communities. I spent a decent amount of time talking to other ski resorts about implementing surveys, gate surveys, people who are going out of bounds, because we run, I think, the largest gate survey program in the world at the moment, which is pretty awesome to just talk to people who are leaving the gates about what kind of equipment they have, the education they have, where they're going, that sort of thing. So we love talking to people. We love getting the word out about what we're doing. We're always trying to push the envelope a little bit without, going too far. But it's been really nice to partner on some of these more unique programs. The loaner PFD program that started a few years ago was a great opportunity. Who knew that if we put 100 PFDs in the river, that somebody would actually put them on and then return them. And that's kind of the case, which is great. These AED stations that we have along the river and now in some of our bigger organizations and nonprofits in town. It's another great program of just kind of getting that message out there about kind of prevention and safety.
Very cool. And I know that, you work with some fantastic people, some of which I've had the pleasure of getting to meet. And, they're powerhouses in the medical world. They're powerhouses in the community safety and policing space. They're, experts in the nonprofit workings. And, you guys have gotten to this point as a team, right? You've kind of been pushing that envelope in a lot of ways over the last few years. And anytime you have a multi-headed organization like you do, there's friction, there's differing priorities, and you have strong personalities that really resonate with some of those priorities. As a person pushing for collaboration and change with all those three groups, give me a sense of how you've really gotten everybody. And I know it was not all been you, right? But you've had a big role in it. What have you done to sort of get this organization to the state it's in?
That's a great question, Aaron. It's definitely a partnership and an ebb and flow. Especially in our situation, we're really working with a private-public partnership. And so there's just certain things the government isn't able to do or can't do or don't have the flexibility to do that nonprofits do. And so there's always going to be a little bit of a push and pull of like, yeah, maybe we can accomplish that, but is that doable within the kind of public sphere right now? And so sometimes we have to be patient and wait. I do a lot of listening, talking less, listening more. I'm super positive. It's definitely one of the things, we focus a lot on mental health with our volunteers, and what we use this phrase, trending green. So I try to trend green in terms of where I'm looking, not, what has happened in the past. And I think just building kind of the team around you that, wants to see kind of, what's best for the community, what's best for our team, and then what's the right thing to do. And at the end of the day, I got to ask myself, like, is this the right thing to do right now? Like, is this going to make our world a better place, our community a better place, our team, whatever it is? And then kind of working through the steps to make sure that we've got, buy-in from people. And then kind of, like I said, pushing the boundaries where it makes sense to, if it's the right thing to do.
If you're comfortable, can you give an example of some initiative or some idea you had that you felt like you were pushing hard to get forth and get sort of buy-in on?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, like I said, the private partner piece of it can get a little tricky, but a couple of years ago, we started this kind of mental health program within our first responder community. And at the beginning of it, we kind of said like, oh, well, we'll do this peer support thing. And it didn't have a lot of traction. Like people were into it, but there wasn't much funding behind it. There wasn't a lot of movement. And basically I had asked like, hey, what if the foundation took this over and really just kind of administrated it, implemented some training and kind of pushed it. And so we did that about 6 months into the program. And then it's kind of been steamrolling since then. I mean, we serve more first responders with direct therapist visits than anyone else I know. We do have this very robust peer support team that really works on keeping each other healthy and in a positive space. But it's also something that, the government really hasn't been part of in the past. And so it was like a real big push to get, the fire department and the sheriff's department to buy in with funding. And the sheriff was kind of the first guy to do it. He put down the money and was like, okay, I'm in. And so from there, it just kind of snowballed into, yeah, this is really important. We do need to provide direct services. We do need to help those who are helping others. And I kind of, push a little bit on that to make sure that we have all the resources and training that we need so that this program can continue to be as robust as it needs to be to support all of our first responders in the Valley. And so, yeah, it's a little bit, it's not directly supporting search and rescue. It does. Search and rescue is one of the agencies. But it's the right thing to do to support all first responders in this Valley because it's going to make us a more cohesive team all together. When we go on big searches, it's the national park, it's us, it's police department, it's the sheriff's department, it's dispatch, everybody's working together. And so we all want to be in a good space to be able to do that.
So important. I mean, those programs to provide care for the caregiver, and especially for folks who are, in it for the support of the community and to put themselves in harm's way to help somebody get out of harm's way, and it's, there's the grit and the ruggedness and the super high performers and the super skilled across all these different parts of a rescue operation. And it's not always something that we make time for, that we, think we need necessarily. So I think the fact that you guys are offering it, in such a robust way is fantastic. What's the response been like from the participants?
Oh, it's been fantastic. I mean, the first 6 to 8 months, it was pretty much a slow roll. And then as soon as it kind of hit people oh, this is something I should do. It's moving and rolling. We went from 2 therapists to 4 therapists that we, have available for people. We do a bunch of peer support. So just, calling people up, checking in with people. We provide things like different wellness incentives for people to, get a massage or get some acupuncture or whatever they need to keep themselves healthy and moving forward. So it's definitely caught on, and it's something that we're proud to be part of, as well as kind of want the community as a whole to see hey, we're working on this for first responders. Let's keep this rolling.
Got it. So if I understood, is there some aspect of it that's preventative in terms of massage, acupuncture, et cetera? And then is there more like triage focused, just post, rescue operation to sort of help folks manage the reactivity or the trauma that they just experienced?
Yeah, absolutely. And then everything in between. So yeah, lots of prevention, peer support to kind of, keep people together. And I think in the military, they call them battle buddies. So just people that you're checking in on and making sure we're all kind of moving in the right direction. And then a really robust system for post-event remediation, I guess, or post-event trauma, to really get services in place if we need them, and kind of keep people so that they can get back to work as quickly as possible.
Awesome. And in terms of the focus of the program moving forward, is it going to kind of stay as it is, or is it you have plans to expand that too?
Well, we continue to expand it just based on the need. And so, we've been raising funds to help families of first responders, which I think is a huge deal. I mean, a lot of times, the heroes go out to do their thing, but their spouse is at home with the kids or making dinner, walking the dog. And so we've really expanded our services there and provided some training for the kind of spouses and families of first responders. And then we're using kind of our model in the Jackson Hole community to look at mental health as at a whole community, and what it looks like to potentially offer things like wellness visits with therapists or peer groups or other supportive ways that employers can, keep people in the restaurants happy. So we're kind of using it right now as we're piloting into what the community is going to do kind of in this next phase of mental health.
So good. And so kind of pulling it back to your family, obviously you have a spouse and 3 kids. And maybe Clay has gone through the training, because I'm sure he watches you head out the door on a daily basis to some of these things. But it is a mom of 3 kids and a wife and a dog mom. In terms of, the way that you structure, organize your time, you've got 3 kids in school, you've got home responsibilities, but the work that you do is, it can, you can get a ring up in the middle of the night. You can, at the drop of a hat, you're stuck with a rescue. You're not coming home. How do you manage it all?
I manage. I mean, there's no magic to this system here. Some days are better than others. I've got this amazing family and amazing community. It's not just my family. It's the whole community, it's my neighbors and friends. And, I work really hard at saying no when it's appropriate and saying yes when I have to, and I want to. But there's certain situations, we had a big search this last weekend, and I was heading to Pinedale to watch my oldest race mountain bikes. I got a call hey, can you come in? And I was like, no, we're going to have to talk to somebody else. And that works sometimes because we have a big bench. We have a lot of people on the team. Like I said, I'm not only the foundation executive director, I am a team member. And so when I got that call on Friday, it was, hey, we need your resources as a team member. But we've got a big bench, lots of people with skills. And so I was able to go to Pinedale, watch my son race. The next day I was driving back up through, big search is going on. We get another call out. And so I'm like, okay, sorry, we got to change plans here for a second. And so Ellery, my oldest, just basically came with me. He came to the rescue cache. We collected all the gear. We got a couple people we went out to, the pass to do a rescue, and he kind of helped me with my radio. He kind of, talked to my husband to let him know that we were going to be late to our next adventure. And, we were about 90 minutes off schedule, but he got to be part of this kind of rescue scene and see what it's about. And then we were able to help somebody out on a bad day and then get moving. So it's ebbs and flows. It's saying no when I need to. I got a call last night. My husband was at soccer with my daughter. I had one sleeping and one on the couch. And luckily my 11-year-old is a fantastic babysitter. So I was like, hey man, I'm going to walk out the door in about 5 minutes if this person isn't found. And he was like, all right, see you later. So yeah, that's just how it works in our family. And people are good at being flexible and moving where they need to. And they also know that when I need to prioritize them, I do it.
It's awesome. And, you build a solid bench at work, you got a solid bench at home, and adaptable, flexible, and powerful. It's pretty awesome crew to be running with.
Yeah, it's definitely the people around you is that makes it tick. The other thing I have to leave a lot is my work, my foundation work to go do rescue. And so my staff at the office is just unbelievable in terms of like how quickly they maneuver and change and provide things that, weren't on their plate that day. So working for our organization isn't just about coming in and sitting at your desk at a moment's notice. Rescue might happen and you've got to like help pull out trucks or, get lunch for 25 people, which, isn't somebody's normal day, but that's just what happens around our place.
Yeah. I'd imagine that you've got to select for people who've got that ability to pivot on a dime, and whether they have a whole bunch of existing skills already or they're up for learning a bunch of new things. I would imagine, you've got to have people like that surrounding you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So keeping it on the family side of things for a minute, you had shared with me offline, you've got a pretty fun adventure happening this spring. What are your plans for that awesome family of yours for those months that you told me about?
Yeah. I mean, it'll be 12 years in June that I'll be working at the foundation. I've been talking about with my staff and my team, is it time for me to leave? Is it time for me to kind of move on from this job? In terms of, have I reached its capacity? I mean, I'm super happy with my job. I love what I do. I feel like I provide great service, but after 12 years somewhere, like, is it time? And so after a lot of conversations, we kind of came to the idea that maybe the time was for me to take a break. So I'm taking a sabbatical this spring with the hopes of coming back to work and being refreshed and ready to go again. It also gives my staff an opportunity to kind of step up, kind of see where they can fill in some gaps, although I don't think there are many. I think they can handle it all without me. And so the family and I are taking off for 4 months, starting in March, and we're heading south. Our hope, this is all kind of with the state of the world right now, but we're hoping to spend about 6 weeks in Central America, 6 weeks in South America, and finish up the kind of trip in Europe. Our kids are enrolled in a dual language school. So they spend half their day in Spanish and half their day in English. And so really immersing them in Spanish culture has been a high priority of my husband's and mine. And there's no perfect timing. Originally we wanted to take a whole year, we wanted to quit jobs and go, but with the world the way it is, we're doing what we can so that we can still live these experiences that we want to do, but know that it's important for us to, keep some income in and keep our housing where it is, and all of that. So yeah, we're really psyched. Nothing's super planned out at the moment, except for we're looking for good waves to jump on at least for this first 6 weeks and then take it from there.
So cool. How do the kids feel about it?
They're really excited. My 4 and 6-year-old, sorry, I forget their ages sometimes, are a little bit, like, oh, great. Like they don't really know what's going on. A lot of people are surprised. My 11-year-old, almost 12-year-old is as excited as he is. I'm taking him away from his friends and his sports and all that, but he's just an adventurer at heart. He just loves getting out there and adventuring. So he's pretty psyched to kind of explore the world and see what's out there. And we travel quite a bit, or we did pre-pandemic. So it's been kind of people have been itching to get out. We talk a lot about the adventures we want to go on and where we want to go. So if nothing else, we'll get somewhere and we'll adventure doing something. We're just not totally sure what that is yet.
So great. And, I know that it's not even close to planned out, but are you thinking, when you go to Central America, you'll pick a zone and just sort of travel out from there from those 6 weeks? Or are you going to kind of be nomads and really bob and weave for however long you're in, say, Central America or South America?
Yeah, my partner Clay has to work while we're gone, gets to work while we're gone. And so internet is important. So our kind of plan is to have home bases for a couple of weeks at a time and then really travel out from there. We might do a little bit more excursion centric travel in South America, where maybe he'll take a couple week vacation from work and really concentrate our time kind of doing a driving trip or something in Argentina. But our hope is for him to be able to work pretty seamlessly from the places we are at, while I really focus on, finishing up schooling with the kids and immersing in some Spanish language and culture and really getting outside.
And you're going to try to get barreled, aren't you?
Maybe not.
It's time, Steph. It's time. You've earned it.
All right,
12 years at the foundation and you're ready for your first warm water barrel.
Yeah, I might be.
Did the kiddos surf yet?
My oldest has taken a few lessons, is pretty into it. The little ones, I've put out some inquiries to get them some lessons while we're out there. So they're all good swimmers, which is great. It's kind of the first step. And now we'll get them out into the water.
Perfect. Well, look, Steph, all the best in getting through this upcoming winter and for sure on that fantastic trip you've got in the makings. And I want to thank you for your time today on the show. And if folks want to connect with you a little bit more on some of the work you're doing at the foundation, how do they find you?
Yeah, super easy to find us on our website, tetoncountysar.org. Otherwise, Stephanie at tetoncountysar.org is my email address. Aaron probably has all that info. But yeah, really easy to see what we're up to, see our events, sign up for all of our online offerings, and get to know our team a little bit more.
Fantastic. Well, have a good rest of your day, and thanks again for your time.
Thanks, Aaron.
Bye. The Trailbreaker podcast is created by Aaron Feinberg with production support provided by Michael Morey. More interviews and videos can be found at aaronfeinberg.com.